Sickos Club.
Sickos Club.
Hey, come here. You like pro wrestling? We got a little something for you. Two fans, 3,000 miles away. We each been watching for more than 30 years. Celebrating the art form, the action, the homoeroticism. We ain't rating matches. We ain't analyzing stories. We ain't experts. We just sit down, shut up, and mark out! Hello, everybody. It is your boy, Blade Daily, back once again with another edition of Sit Down, Shut Up, Mark Out. And though I am not joined by Joshi G this week because she is under the weather, I got somebody who knows Joshi G very well. In fact, they call each other wifeys. I mean, they're basically married. They're wrestling wives over their shared love of one Kenneth Jerome Omega. And that's Books and Bodyslams. Books, welcome back to the show.
Thank you for having me again. I feel honored.
It's my pleasure, Books. We love having you. I love that I've been watching like old man watching, and you've been watching for a short time, so I get a totally different perspective when we get to do stuff like this together. And I'm going to put a question to you about that later because I want to get your thoughts on some stuff as a shorter term fan. But, you know, the people, if they don't know, Books and Bodyslams, it's just that on so many different social media platforms, on Threads, on Blue Sky, on TikTok, YouTube.
Yes, and Instagram.
And Instagram, that's right. Books and Bodyslams. You're going to like what you're hearing today, so make sure you go check out Books. Books is known to get a little spicy, known to make her feelings known and not hold back. You're going to get some spice when you go to those channels, but you're going to love it. You're going to love it. So, real quick before we start, I just want to say to anyone listening to this, it's been a stressful week to be an American, okay? There was a literal assassination in America the other day, and a whole bunch of reactions to it. I have no love for the person involved who was shot. I have zero pity for him. However, this is also extremely fucked up, and it's scary. And hearing people vow revenge and talk about all of that, that's fucking scary. So I guess all I really want to say is, friends, let's try and bring the temperature down a little bit. Please stay safe. You don't know who you're arguing with, especially online. And it's clear that there's some dangerous people out there. So if you listen to this show, you know what I believe and where I come from. And I just want you to take care of yourself and be safe. America has a history of these kinds of things happening, but it feels like things are ramping up, and that is not good. That is real not good. So I just hope everybody's doing okay. If you need to take a break from social media, if you need to take a break from the news, do it. It's good for your mental health. I did it yesterday. I had really bad anxiety watching people cover this, and I was like, you know what? Fuck this. I'm not doing this today. And it really helped not to. So even if you need to turn this episode off and come back later, do it, okay? But in a different kind of bad news, very much less important kind of bad news, Books, the word just came down from on high.
It did.
Wrestlemania is coming to Riyadh. It's coming to Saudi Arabia, bitches. What the fuck?
They sold out. Oh, wait, that's also what their fans all said in the YouTube video chat.
It's insane. It's insane. I mean, we've kind of joked about this happening at times, oh, well, there'll be a Wrestlemania in Saudi at some point. Ha ha ha. Maybe that's where blah, blah, blah will wrestle, blah, blah, blah. And you just say it to like talk about far-fetched things, right? This is something I could have seen happening, but I had hoped that it wouldn't. And nope. next year, WrestleMania will not be happening in the United States. It will be happening in Riyadh. They have always said that, WrestleMania happening in London or anywhere else is not on the table, that they've always wanted to do it in the States because that's where they think they'll draw the biggest audience. Unless it's Saudi, I guess. So their biggest event of the year is going to happen in Saudi Arabia.
And something that's also not being discussed about that is what this is going to mean for indie promotions and WrestleCon,
Right.
all of these things that rely on WrestleMania in the United States that they book around. And it just kind of shows that WWE does not care about anything except WWE.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, WrestleMania weekend is a huge weekend for a lot of indie promotions, and they draw some of their biggest crowds of the year at that time. What I would, I just had a terrible, evil thought, as I'm sure you can tell. What if AEW did a low effort counter program and did a big weekend somewhere in the States that people could still book their festival, kind of their WrestleMania style shows around? That would be pretty funny.
Oh yeah, someone said, even though we know All Out next year is in London, but maybe the year they should do something.
Yeah,
because All In may become the new WrestleMania if they stay in the United States.
I think that it's certainly worth considering for Tony Khan. Is like, can you do something to help fill that gap for the indies, and maybe not put on your biggest show of the year, certainly, because you don't want that going head to head with WrestleMania. But I think you could do something where you do give those indie promotions a chance to like have that big gathering that they would have expected for WrestleMania. So and maybe other fans who would have gone to WrestleMania can go to that. Who knows?
Yeah.
Because I know I've known people who've gone to WrestleMania, and like the Mania itself isn't the reason that they're really there. It's like all the shows around Mania that they really enjoy. So it's a really weird thing, but WWE has clearly made a calculation that they'll make more money if they do this, and I think that's where WWE is now.
They've already made the money. Like Saudi paid them so much money for that.
Yes.
That ticket sales on top of that is.
Yeah. This cannot possibly be covered by the original deal they had. I can't imagine that. I mean, because what a terrible mistake it would be if that was the case. But like, I'm sure they got a big addition to that deal in order to bring Mania over there. And I think that's the thing you're going to see with big companies like WWE. UFC has done the same thing, and TKO, clearly this is a part of their calculus. They want the money. They don't really care what things look like. They are, they employed Dana White, for Christ's sake. This man literally beat his own wife on camera, and they didn't even suspend him. So it's really gross. It's really gross. Carrying water for Saudi Arabia, running literal propaganda for Saudi Arabia. This is how WWE does business now. So they're going to go where the money is, not where the people are. I think they're content to sell less tickets and just charge more for the seats. It's I saw that like this new package that they're putting together for WrestleMania, like tickets were like $70,000 for ringside for WrestleMania. $70,000.
Stop.
Like,
that's insane.
Yeah, and if you're a WWE fan and you're paying those kinds of prices, and like, should that really be that interesting or like fire you up that much that WWE is just making a lot of money if they're not making the product you want to see? Like who cares how much money WWE makes? Who cares how much money AEW makes? I don't give a shit. I just want AEW to stay on my TV and be able to watch it every week. You know what I mean?
I just want quality.
Yeah, for me as a fan, that's kind of all that should matter. People will be throwing that around. Well, WWE is going to get that bag. It's like, who cares? Who gives a shit?
Yeah, I saw on TikTok, someone was like, WrestlePalooza and All Out are obviously going not head to head anymore, but ticket sales are about the same right now. And WrestlePalooza's setup is only about 2,000 more than All Out, which is crazy. And right now, AEW is closer to selling out than WrestlePalooza. And someone was like, well, I mean, like if AEW was charging what WWE was, you're literally celebrating ticket prices that are your weekly salary.
Right.
Your monthly take home.
Right.
Like, that's not good.
And that's kind of the thing is like, look, this is, aside from WrestleMania, this is the only time I can remember WWE using the word wrestle in anything. It's like, what are you trying to do? Are you trying to fool people into watching your crap instead? Like, I don't get it. This is their first event on ESPN. They're going to be running it all over ESPN for the entire weekend is going to be WrestlePalooza. And it's like, do you think these people give a shit about wrestling? Because they don't. They've made that very clear. They've said it themselves many, 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 many times.
Did you see what I think it was Brian Alvarez said? WWE tried to change the time of WrestlePalooza again.
Yes, and ESPN said no.
Said no. And I was like, you know what, ESPN? I may have given you shit. Good job.
Well, and that's the thing with all of these networks. You know, I can understand it when USA has let them push them around because they need WWE so bad.
Yeah.
But like NBC never needed WWE that bad. Whatever they were bringing in, they were getting paid so much that it's like hard to believe the value was there. But why would networks allow WWE to just push them around and use their airtime simply to counter program another company? So you know you're splitting the audience to some degree, one way or the other, and you're gonna get a lower rating. Like, why would you agree to that? Why would you ever do that? So I'm glad, good for ESPN. Like, we're not gonna be pawns in this stupid fucking game that you guys play. Fuck that. We did get some good news though, Books, and it's real good news. We're gonna get into some wrestling now, okay? This is a pro wrestling podcast about pro wrestling. It is the tagline of the show. Hey! So last week on Collision, I'm turning on Collision. I'm like, you know, I love Collision. I love what it, you know, I love how important it feels now. It does feel more important than it's ever felt in a lot of ways. When I turned the show on this week, there was something I really wasn't expecting to happen. It happened. They cut to Big Bill, who's with Brian Keith. Big Bill's going on about somebody who, you know, he's tired of playing nice guy, you know, this guy who walked out on the company who hasn't been there for a while. They're trying to lead you to believe he's talking about Chris Jericho. And then he goes, Eddie Kingston. How many posts have you seen wishing Eddie was back? How many posts have you seen people talking about missing Eddie Kingston?
All the time, including 1,000 from me. I mean, I've gaslit myself into thinking every time when every show in Philly, Eddie Kingston was returning. Like I've literally gaslit myself because I was like, Eddie Kingston is ECW. So like, if he doesn't come back, what are we doing?
Yes. And so it was very surprising because it came out of nowhere. And that tells you something's going on with Eddie. He must be somewhat close to being cleared or healthy. Then Eddie responded on Threads. He didn't respond on fucking X. He didn't respond on the Nazi app. He responded on X or on Threads, which is still owned by Meta and not much better, but significantly better as a user experience. So
yes.
Eddie responded and said, Big Bill, anytime. The contract's right. The money's right. Let's do it anytime. And I haven't seen any more than that, but it sure sounds like the Mad King is on his way back. And that is very good news for AEW and all of us.
I would dare even say on Saturday.
I've
gaslit myself again.
Let the gaslighting continue.
It's Saturday. Eddie Kingston's returning on Saturday.
Well, it would be kind of dumb to tease this and drag it out for too long.
Oh yeah.
I could maybe see it going to All Out, or like they announced that it's official for All Out or something like that. I'm not sure it'll happen on Collision, but who knows? Maybe it will. But also last week.
Don't let me lose hope.
You're like, seriously, dude, shut up. Like, what?
This is, if it doesn't happen on Saturday, I'm distraught.
Yes. Well, let the gaslighting continue, I guess. So, but Books, that wasn't the only return that took place on Collision.
No, it was not.
The Outrunners continued to explore Brother Nature. And, it's hilarious. They're like in the woods, like it's like a forested area, but it looks pretty tame. And they're in their military fatigues and, acting like they're in Predator. And they come across, kind of what they're describing as like a, mythical like creature, like Predator is an alien, kind of thing. And then you see a cut to the boys in the trees. And they're doing the little head thing. And like Predator, and what this means. And this is another guy that I've really missed and that I am such a huge fan of. Dalton Castle emerged and shook hands with the Outrunners, did the you son of a bitch shake. This is the coolest way you could bring Dalton Castle back, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
I hope it's in AEW, though, to be honest.
Yes. Yeah, I do too. I think Dalton deserves that. I think the Outrunners deserve that. I think this team up, given all of their, I don't want to say gimmicks, but appearances and the way they all, the three of them all carry themselves, this is gold.
This is a very inspired pairing, you know what I mean? Where it's like the Outrunners are goofy fuckers, but they're very clever. Dalton Castle is a goofy fucker, but also extremely clever. And their gimmicks aren't exactly the same or even that similar, but they're just clowns. They're fucking hilarious, Dalton has the best entrance in wrestling in so many ways. And the Outrunners, these guys just move merch like crazy. So, this is probably both their tickets to getting in AEW TV more regularly. But I think it also should be said, there isn't a lot of trios right now. Do I see these guys beating the Ops? No. But, I can see them beating the team that beats the Ops. Who knows? So, whether they're in ROH or not, I mean, I will watch ROH to see this for sure. But whether they are in AEW or not, this is an exciting development. We've needed Dalton Castle back. And really, something that I've been noticing, Books, is that Collision this has been the best year of Collision so far. It 100%. Feels like the AEW formula is changing a bit. Does it feel that way to you?
It does. Collision has felt like, I don't really want to label them A and B tier.
Right.
But Collision doesn't feel like Dynamite's little sibling anymore.
Right. Exactly. Whereas with Raw and SmackDown, for basically only until SmackDown was on Fox did it ever feel like the A show. But, SmackDown was perceived as more of the wrestling show at various times. And Raw was kind of like where stories advanced, when they weren't doing some kind of quote unquote brand split, the lamest term in the history of wrestling. But Collision now kind of has that vibe where it's like you're going to see the straight up banger classics, like Tony's weirdo combinations of people that put on incredible matches together. You're going to see that on Collision. And then on Dynamite, it feels like maybe they're doing like one less match than they had been doing before. And there's more stories kind of being advanced and angles being advanced on Dynamite because they know more people are watching there. And it's not noticeable enough to be like, oh, Dynamite's totally different now. It's not. It's just Collision is noticeably just like so stacked with great wrestling now that the purist in me or in you or in anyone who wants to take, partake in just the great graps, Collision's your show, where when you want to see the things kind of advance and happen and maybe the big pay-per-view match get announced, it's going to happen on Dynamite. Very, very cool.
Yeah. It feels like AEW has found its footing, its flow. It has it has both Dynamite and Collision's identity found.
Yes.
And it almost makes Rampage going away feel worth it, because I think Toni needed Rampage to go away so he could figure out Collision, what Collision was going to be.
I completely agree. I think that Rampage was a terrible time slot. It wasn't going to get any better. I mean, they weren't going to give it a different time slot. It's only an hour, too. So I enjoyed Rampage for what it was, but they were getting crushed in the ratings.
Yeah.
And, it was being used to try and, make them look bad or whatever. It's like, dude, put anything in a Friday night slot at 10 or at 10, whatever it was, 10 Eastern. Like, you're not going to get a great rating. That's like one of the two primary nights people go out and do stuff. Now, I can see Collision being moved.
Or sleeping.
Right. Exactly. I can see Collision being moved, at some point. I know they've played with the idea. They've certainly done a lot of those Thursday collisions to see what the audience would be like if they would draw a bigger crowd. So I think it's highly possible that Collision might be moved at some point in the future. But Rampage was never going to get moved from where it was. And it just wasn't worth it. And I think you brought up a great point, which is that AEW not only has told better stories, more coherence between the two shows, they seem just focused in a way that is, it felt like 2024 kind of hinted at that focus, or like had moments where it showed some of that focus. But this is the year where it just feels like it's all come together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Toni, whatever has happened inside of Tony Khan has made it very obvious. He's just focused on the product, and it's the best thing to have happened to. And I say this as a fan. It's the best thing to have happened to AEW. Toni found his focus. He's not caring about what's happening over there or over there. He's just focused on his products. And both products feel elevated because of that.
Mm-hmm. And the pay-per-views continue to be amazing. I remember last year after All In, All Out was great. And then there was just this kind of storytelling lull a little bit.
Yeah.
And this year there was a bit of a storytelling lull as well, but that made more sense because all the big stories climaxed on one night, at All In.
Yeah.
And so we're in that building up process now, but we're further along. So like this last week on Dynamite, which we will get into, it's clearer where things are going. Yeah. But for a few episodes, for 3 episodes or so, it was, of Collision and Dynamite, it was like, yeah, we're just having matches and, we're having fun. And look, I like those shows. I thought they were good. It's just now it feels like there's stories that are really coming in to kind of, take over for the stories that just finished.
Yeah. I think people forget, even in regular TV, you have these filler episodes.
Yeah.
That are there. And they're just meant to be fun.
Right.
And that happens in wrestling. And we shouldn't judge, I don't want to say judge, but they're just as important because you need breaks.
I think it's very similar to Marvel, right? Where it's like Marvel did that huge cinematic universe, and then they built all the way to the Infinity War, and then they did Endgame. And ever since Endgame, people have been so critical.
So critical.
And it's boring, it's this, it's that. And I'm like, I just go to those movies to have fun. Like, I'm not expecting an Oscar-worthy movie. But you can't do Endgame every time you make a movie. Like, you just can't.
And we shouldn't expect that either.
Right.
And I feel like people expect that in wrestling too. Like, no.
Right. Well, and people have a really hard time just like, there was that old trope that I'm sure, we were just talking about before we went on air. I was asking you, like, do people say there's still no stories in AEW?
Yes.
That was obvious. That's obviously not true now. It's never been true, actually. If you actually paid attention to AEW, they were telling stories. But they were, I would say, more subtle, more understated. And then Toni realized, I think at a certain point, just got to be kind of over the top with storytelling. And they got more over the top, more, what American fans are accustomed to as far as stories. And there's still people out there who say that stuff, but a lot of people don't have the patience for a story to be told because they want everything to climax the day they're watching the show, whatever day that is.
Mm-hmm. I will say it's funny. A girl I follow on TikTok has just started watching AEW, and she watched, I think it was last week, she took notes. Like, and then like said, okay, these are my questions. Like, and she's like, okay, like what, like, I get these are the stories. Like, she's watched like 3 episodes and was able to pick up on the story, like what the stories were. But because she didn't have background, she was like, I just don't get what's happened prior. And I was like, if people who are just watching are able to pick up on, okay, so this is a story, then come on. Like,
right.
You just have to pay attention.
I mean, it's not the dunk that you think it is, dumbasses, because like if you can't figure out a pro wrestling storyline, it says something about you, not about pro wrestling. Like pro wrestling storylines aren't that hard to understand.
No, it just also proves my whole thing that media literacy and reading comprehension are very much a lost skill in the world.
It's really, 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 really true. It's very, very sad. Okay. Well, Books.
Moving on.
I'm going to hit the music. When we come back, we're going to be talking about the last AEW show. Well, Saturday is technically the last AEW show in Philadelphia. I believe it was taped the same day. But we had our last Dynamite in Philadelphia this last week, and a whole bunch happened. And I got a question for you that I'm going to ask you when we come back.
Oh, no.
All right, Books. When I told you there was a question for you, you looked stoked. Like, I could tell how excited
I'm a little worried.
Now, this is a question about your opinion about something. And you've never been really shy about giving your opinion about things.
I love I'm very loud with my opinions, so.
Yeah.
I feel a little bit better now.
I loved what you were just about to say, which is like, I love my own opinions.
I do. You know what they are? If you don't love your own opinions, that says something about you.
There's something wrong with you if you don't love your own opinion, Everybody should love their own opinion. Otherwise, you don't have an opinion. I mean, that's what an opinion is. Okay. So, Philly has had 7 shows with Collision happening this weekend. And I saw some chatter that I thought was really weird, but I want to get your take on it. You have been watching since when again?
It's been 7 years, so whatever is 7 years from
2018-ish. 2018-ish. So just before AEW.
Yes.
You've been watching, and you were I remember you were watching the Fed, and then gradually grew less enchanted with it and eventually switched over to AEW. So you never saw ECW.
No.
You have no nostalgia about ECW Arena.
Nope.
And you have no nostalgia really over ECW at all. Like, other than, certain people were there, right?
Mick Foley.
Right. Mick Foley was there. Taz was there. Sabu was there, who was on ECW before they had Rob Van Dam, right? What did you think of this residency? Did it look good to you? Did you get a good feeling from these shows?
Yes. I understand the importance of ECW and the importance that ECW had on Toni and AEW. So going into this, I was so excited because I was like, this is like AEW has always felt like a weird love letter to a mix of WCW and ECW. I've seen random matches and stuff, so I get the gist. So I loved it. I thought it was just like such a good way to honor Tony's inspiration and a lot of these wrestlers' inspiration. Like, there are some, like, you have Darby, Jon Moxley, Eddie Kingston, who are wrestlers who exist because of ECW.
Mm-hmm.
I find it hard understanding why people don't understand how historic this was for AEW.
I saw people, the ratings have been low like last week or whatever it was, and like fretting, like, is it because of ECW Arena looking too small? And so that's why I wanted to ask you.
No, it's because it's back to school and people need money to send their kids back to school because we are heading into a recession. It's not that deep.
There you go.
Raw and SmackDown are also extremely down because people have lives outside of wrestling and things happen.
Yeah, there's definitely not a lot of people paying $70,000 for ringside seats to WrestleMania. I couldn't agree more. I think that's exactly what it is. And it's like a very natural, logical explanation. And so, wrestling.
It's the same discourse as they just sold out 19,000 and now they're of a 900. If you don't understand that this is historic and meaningful for AEW, that's a you problem. They could have gone to a bigger arena. They could have gone to their previous Philly arena. Mm-hmm. They went to this one for a reason.
Right. And WWE, booked themselves in ECW Arena just before, I think it was NXT or something.
Yeah,
they booked it
November.
Just before this, once this was announced. And it's like, so it's fine if WWE does. I mean, it's just so dumb. So anyway, I found those criticisms to be utter horseshit. And I thought that every single show they've done, they've paid a wonderful tribute to ECW. They got Taz inducted into the 2600 Hall of Fame. Very, very deserving. He was a legend in ECW, and the best years of his career were definitely in ECW. Taz is one of my all-time faves. I love Taz as a commentator, as a wrestler. He was just great. And, Blade Daly, when I was 16, 17, 18 years old, I couldn't watch ECW very often, but when I could, and it actually aired in my area at 2 or 3 in the morning on some different channel every single weekend, and I would literally just be flipping through the channels trying to find it, and there were weekends it wasn't even on. And I had no idea if I'd be able to watch it that night, but I would stay up with the hopes that I could. That Blade Daly was very, very happy with this entire thing, and so it brought out the kid in me to a big degree. And one of the matches that assisted in bringing out the child Blade Daly, and not childish Blade Daly, which I know I am, actual child Blade Daly. This week was the Philly street fight between Toni Storm and Skye Blue. Books, you wanted to talk about this one.
Oh, I was going to say, my favorite part about this is that my favorite part of AEW is women's hardcore matches. My favorite part about this was that Toni and AEW gave the women the ECW honor fight. And that's amazing for women's wrestling.
It really is. And
it's making me tear up.
Yeah. No, I saw. I was like, she's getting emotional over there. No, it was so cool. And having Toni come out and do a tribute to the Sandman, who was an ECW legend himself, who apparently couldn't be on the show. I think maybe he has a Legends deal with WWE or something.
Probably.
Because Taz wouldn't even say his name, which was weird. But Toni's so clearly doing a tribute to the Sandman.
Mm-hmm. And it was on her cane.
Right. She wrote Sandman on it. Or it was autographed by him, I believe.
Yeah.
And I think he has a podcast that she's going to be a guest on pretty soon.
Mm-hmm.
Because I saw a picture of them together, like right before this show. So he might have even been in the building. But her coming out, doing a tribute to the Sandman, wrestling Skye Blue, who is also such a hardcore fan of wrestling and somebody who just loves wrestling. These two beat the shit out of each other. They gave it their all. Toni was stapled in the butt, boobs, and
vajayjay.
She was stapled in the vagina, in the vajayjay.
Mm-hmm.
Skye at least took some butt staples that I saw. I'm not sure if she was stapled in the boobs.
I don't think she was.
I don't think she was.
I'm very proud of Skye because you can tell at first she was like, hardcore matches I feel like are a little hard because you don't know how hard to actually go.
Yep.
And you could see at one point Toni was like, just do it.
Yep.
Like, let's go. Like, and you can see that shift in Skye. But I was so proud of Skye because like that's I feel like a match out of a lot of female wrestlers' comfort zone. And I think even Taz made a comment when she didn't hit her as hard with the metal fan and was like, yeah, that hurts.
Yeah. No, it was in it. And also on this show, we had Bryan Danielson on commentary. And so he is now a permanent member. He's taken Tony Schiavone's place as a permanent member of the AEW commentary team. I'm actually happy for Schiavone because this man is, if he's not, he's close to 70 years old. And he has been a warrior for AEW. He's been in every town. He's been doing commentary on 2 different shows, including being the primary play-by-play guy with Nigel McGuinness on Collision. Toni needed a break. Toni needed something to give. And I was definitely starting to see the effects that calling so many shows was having on him because he was getting a lot of stuff wrong. And I'm like, and I don't judge Tony Schiavone. He is the best. Like, I love Tony Schiavone. But having Danielson as his replacement, that's about as cool as it gets. And Danielson offering his insights during this match, during the picture-in-picture commentary, he's like, I don't really get why they even care about these sheets, why they hit these people. And Taz is like, no, it hurts, bro. Like, and Danielson's like, you don't think I've been hit by one of these before? Of course I have, but he's like just trying to get at Taz a little bit, I think. And he's just, but he's trying to add some reality to it. And I really enjoyed him on this show. And I look forward to hearing him grow as a commentator because I've always liked him when he's been on commentary. But, they beat the shit out of each other. And Toni eventually wins with the Storm Zero on Skye. But man, they really left it all out there. Also, Toni wore the full bodysuit, probably because she was going to get stapled. So, she did have another layer of protection. I got to say, and I try not to be this guy too often, but this was really like a battle of the beautiful bums. Like both these ladies, like, good Lord.
You're not wrong.
They're extraordinarily gifted.
Yeah. The first thing I ever noticed about Skye Blue was her bum. And I was like, holy hell. Like
that. She's got a nice bum. I mean, look,
she does. It's a fact. It's not objectification.
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, people objectify each other. It's wrestling, for Christ's sake.
It's wrestling.
There's plenty. Just be respectful about it. That's all. And yes, and Toni, has she's the wide load that carries the gold, baby. So she's very aware of her attributes. So this match made me feel a lot of things, and happiness was the primary one. So
yeah.
After the match, Toni wins, Skye loses, but her teammates in the Triangle of Madness, which I no longer hate that name because they made the vibe so cool that I can't possibly bitch about the name anymore. And that's saying something, because I thought this was a real bad name. But Tekla and Julia Hart come out and they start beating that ass. They start beating on Toni Storm. And then we get the music. It's Chris Statlander's music. She comes racing out and to make the save, and she's getting some good shots in, but she eventually gets overwhelmed herself because she's against three people, and Toni's out on her ass, her beautiful ass. And then finally the Jamie Hayter rave hits, and Jamie Hayter runs out, but because her compatriots have already had their asses kicked, it's just her versus three, and she gets her ass kicked too. She gets kicked out of the ring. Toni Storm takes a spear from Tekla, and the segment ends with the Triangle standing tall and Tekla holding the Women's World Championship. TK, you can't be teasing us like this. I would love Tekla to win the world title. I don't think she's going to, but holy shit, just seeing it in her hands, I marked the fuck out. How'd you feel about it?
Oh, I loved it. Except I always think when someone holds the title, it means they're not going to get it anytime soon. So I was like, oh crap.
Yeah.
I just get really excited because I think it's leading to blood and guts, and now I think Toni Storm to me is the queen of hardcore matches right now for women, and I think I didn't originally have her in my booking for blood and guts. But I'm like, I think she's going to lead that team, whoever, like the Chris Statlander, the Willow, against the Triangle of Madness. But yeah, no, like I said, I got emotional because I love the fact that the women got the highlight match. Like, so I loved everything about this. Like,
you're getting emotional again. I'm watching you do it.
So, one of my favorite things about AEW is these type of matches. Because like, if I saw these matches growing up, I would have probably pursued wrestling. So I just think about like all the little girls being inspired by this and like, look, mom, we can be brutal too. Like, women are so strong and resilient. And I love that this happened because it kind of just proves that women are more badass.
It's true. Women are more badass. And as a man, I have no hesitation saying that. Because women can put up with so much more bullshit than men.
So much.
Physically, I'm sitting here, like, if I have a cold, I'm like such a baby about it. Like, I'm like, oh, I don't feel good. And like what you guys go through just like on the daily is like, would make whatever I've gone through look like nothing. You can give birth to children. Like, that ain't like anything I'm ever going to experience. So at least not experience and survive.
I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing because, from my understanding, it's sometimes so traumatic people don't want to do it again. So
yeah. Now, there was actually 2 women's matches on this show is the other part. There was 2 women's matches on the show.
No wonder why I'm emotional. We had 2 women's matches.
And this was a match that had gotten announced last week on Dynamite that I thought was really cool. It's Alex Windsor and Rio versus Mercedes Moné and Emi Sakura. Emi has not been on AEW television in a long time. And she's a very busy woman to be very clear about that. But Emi Sakura is a goddamn legend. She also trained Rio. So as she's trained many, many other people, even when we had Jake DeLeon on our show from the Philippines a long time back, he shared with us some advice that he got from Emi Sakura directly. I mean, she's had her hand in so many different people's careers. It's really one of those, you just feel good seeing her on the screen. She's so amazing. And so I was really looking forward to this match. And Rio and Alex Windsor won, as you would expect. Rio made Emi Sakura tap to a single-legged crab, which is not a move you see a lot of people tap to, but, she put it on well. But I got to be honest, Rio looked a little rusty in this match. Not that surprising because she literally has 0 matches on her cage match since last year. And so I'm not, criticizing her for being rusty. My only concern is she's wrestling Mercedes Moné in a singles match on pay-per-view in 10 days.
Uh-huh.
How did you feel watching this?
I felt a lot of ring rust, and that made me sad because I think Rio is, she's a very strong wrestler for them. And it's also not surprising. I mean, people come in with ring rust all the time, and it should be expected. Like, if you haven't wrestled, you're going to have ring rust. But I do see the worry going into All Out because, and I'm hoping she has a couple more matches in between because I think it's needed. She needs to be in the ring wrestling so that match at All Out does not feel like a repeat of another match we had where that wrestler against Mercedes had extreme ring rust too.
Right. Yes, exactly. Another OG. Yeah. No, I think this is, it wasn't like terrible. Like the match itself was pretty pleasant. It was like a fun watch still. But, I know Rio. I'm used to her being very fluid, being very on it. And she was slower. She didn't seem, I thought maybe it was a comfort issue. Maybe, when you first come back from an injury, you could be scared of getting hurt again. I think that's a head game that ends up happening for a lot of people. So I'm hopeful that maybe she got a little more comfortable being in the ring because the second half of this match, she got noticeably better. So I don't, she's been doing this a real long time. So I'm not like too worried about it. But a singles match, it's harder to cover, and Mercedes, as good as she is, can't possibly wrestle herself. She's going to need Rio to show up. So, once again, not trying to dog Rio or anything. I'm a big fan, but she did look rusty in this one. Hopefully she'll be in little better form at All Out.
Agreed.
Something else that I thought was kind of interesting on this show. Hook did a pre-tape interview. He was on a roof on a couch, but it was like a minute and a half of Hook doing a promo by himself. And you know what? He had no interviewer. There was no Renee there for him. There's nobody there. And he cut a pretty good promo. This is probably the best promo I've ever seen him cut.
I think it was my favorite Hook promo. You can definitely tell he's getting more comfortable.
Yep. And he said basically that, he understood why the ops did what they did, that they had to, I have been an athlete my whole life. When somebody gets hurt, it's the next guy in line. An opportunity presented itself, and I appreciate that they said they'd always have my back. But I think it's time for Hook to walk alone. Or maybe not.
Maybe not.
Very interesting tease. I was like, what the hell is going on here? This is interesting.
I'm not going to, I should probably, I'm going to share with what I screamed. I screamed Hookhausen. Or Jack Perry. I don't know why the idea of Hook and Jack Perry makes sense, but I'm really, really holding out. I'm going to gaslight myself again into thinking it's going to be Danhausen.
Hook and Jack Perry would be real interesting, and they've been rivals in the past, so that would be even more interesting. That he was wrestling Hook when he did the Crimea River thing. That's who he was wrestling on that pre-show for All In. Real Glass, yeah.
Real Glass.
So very, very interesting. I'm curious to see where they go next.
Light bulb. All right. So we know the ops have the issues with the Bucks because they're aligned with the Death Riders.
Yep.
You know who also still has an issue with the Bucks because the Bucks are ignoring him?
Yeah.
Jack Perry.
That would be pretty dope. It would also, and then we talked about it together the last time you were on. I'm pretty sure that was Jack Perry injecting Luchasaurus with something. So, there's a whole bunch of things that could happen, but I think we're going to get some exciting returns coming up here fairly soon. And it's just more to be excited about. And something else I'm pretty excited about is the music I'm about to play. And when we come back, there's some more matches announced for All Out that I think are going to be really, really fun. And somebody got rich this week, or at least slightly more wealthy this week. And we're going to discuss that too. So right back at you, babies. All right, Books. Well, we got 2 matches made very official.
Yes, we did.
Last Dynamite. Actually, more than that, but these 2 for sure. MJF and Mark Briscoe is official. It's happening. There's still the stipulation part, which they haven't gotten to, but MJF cut a promo after he screwed Mark Briscoe out of beating Konosuke Takeshita. And Takeshita pushed MJF, like, why would you attack? Because he started attacking Briscoe right after the match. Our boy Takeshi's turning babyface. It's happening.
Mm-hmm.
It's happening.
Oh, yeah. It's happening. I can't wait because you know how I feel about the Don Callis family. And I want him to lose his shining star of Takeshita.
Look, I love the Don Callis family. I love Uncle Don. I do want to take this opportunity because we haven't even mentioned him yet. Josh, you remember what happened last time I had a guest on. We didn't talk up Don enough. He was on this show a lot, and I was really happy about it because Don's the best. Don's the greatest. Don's the best manager. He's very attractive. He's very muscular. He's got perfect eyesight.
I feel like I'm being gaslit here.
You're not the only one, okay? But like, Don's gaslighting from a distance right now, okay? But yes, it definitely appears that Takeshita could be getting a little fed up with, also he's like, hey, that guy, I respect that guy. Don't fucking attack him, and then MJF kind of got in his face. So there was something interesting to that on Collision as well, but they teased like Kyle Fletcher and Mark Briscoe were going to be wrestling it all out. It seemed almost inevitable. Joshi and I were both a little concerned that Takeshita might lose. He just won the G1. Like, you can't have this guy lose. He's about to wrestle for the IWGP title next month. Can't have him lose. And he didn't. So I ended up very happy with all of this. And I thought it was a really great swerve to like tease that it was going to go Fletcher and Briscoe and then to bring it back. And that might be because somebody got hurt. So I read a rumor today that Wardlow was originally going to challenge Hangman at All Out. But Wardlow got hurt in his one and only appearance at Forbidden Door. He tore his pectoral muscle, it sounds like, and that can be a 6-month layoff. So that's really too bad. I was really happy to see him back. I thought a fresh start as a heel would have been great for him. Wasn't meant to be, so they pivoted to Kyle Fletcher. And Fletcher had challenged Hanger. So this week kicked off with Hangman Page versus Josh Alexander. These two had a badass match. Hangman gave Josh a lot. Really, really made him look great in defeat. Hanger still looked very strong because he fended off the interference and still beat Josh. And then he takes the mic afterwards and he says, I was called out by Kyle Fletcher. So why don't you get your ass out here and do it like a man? Fletcher comes out with thank God, with Don, like Don graced us with his presence right from the beginning. He was on commentary a lot also during this show, which thank God for that too. And why are you rolling your eyes? It was fucking really, really, really insightful.
He sent my husband to the hospital again, out in a stretcher.
I think your husband has a preoccupation with stretchers personally. I mean, our last episode does Kenny Omega have a stretcher fetish? Because he's gone out on a lot of them. No, it's Don
Callis who has a putting Kenny Omega on a stretcher fetish.
Yeah, that could be.
Not Kenny Omega. It's Don Callis.
That's fair. I think that's fair. But basically Kinky Dawn was on commentary a lot, and we were all really excited about it, especially Books. And Hanger essentially said to Fletcher, "Hey, you're not ready. You are not ready. I remember being you. You remind me of me 6 years ago when he legendarily challenged Chris Jericho at the very first All Out. I was there in Chicago in attendance live. Hanger lost. I watched Jericho become the first AEW world champion. That was pretty cool. And they had a really, really good match. But I even remember leading up to that match, they didn't have weekly television when this match happened. So it was all promoted on YouTube and stuff like that. But I remember people saying, this guy Hangman, he does not taking this seriously enough. He doesn't seem like a main eventer. Why would you go with Hangman first? And he tried to kind of make it more serious the last week or two leading up to it. But that was before anybody knew Hangman all that well. There were a lot of new fans seeing him for the first time, and they didn't get it. But he had a great match with Jericho, but he lost. And Hangman says, you're not ready? And Kyle gets very upset about this. Did you notice how fucking tall Kyle is during this segment?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's like insanely tall. Like even when you look at pictures of him and Skye together, you're like,
right.
Because she's a shorty.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's, if that ever becomes an issue for them, the respective height difference. Skye, I'm just saying, I'm not tall. I'm probably taller than you, but not uncomfortably so. But maybe that's her thing. I don't know. But then Kyle gets set off by this don't you dare say I'm not ready thing. And he says, I'm 26 and I'm in my prime right now. And I'll only stop being in my prime when I say I'm not in my prime, which last time I checked is not how that works. But no. He is so good at everything. This was a great promo. So he's agreed to leave the Dawn in the back. He's agreed to leave the Callis family behind. There was a bit of a trace of, and I'm not sure if you were watching at the time, but the first time MJF main evented a pay-per-view, it was against Jon Moxley for the AEW title at All Out. 2021, maybe? 2022, maybe? It was during the pandemic, and it was the first time MJF ever lost. And this really had a lot of those vibes to me. A friend of ours, mutual friend, Sicko, Alex, pointed out that he really hates it when champions challenge other champions for their belts. Alex, I share that.
I do too.
Annoyance. But given the pivot that they had to make, this is a great opponent for Hangman. You just got to roll with the best opponent. It doesn't even matter. I would much rather see him defend the TNT title. But him having a banger main event, his first main event ever in AEW, is pretty exciting to me. So I'm very excited to see what comes of this. How'd you feel about it?
I share that. I hate the double the champion versus champion. But I get it. Like we have a little bit of an injury bug going. It happens, but we're pivoting quick. We're not making mistakes here with our pivots. I think it's going to be good. I think Hangman has, much like his fellow elite members, has a very special way of bringing out the best in his opponents.
Yes.
So I still think Hangman's going to win. I don't think they're going to take this away from Hangman anytime soon. Fletcher's going to come out of there looking like even more of a star than he already is.
Yeah. Look, if the writing wasn't all over the wall that Hangman's winning this one and he hadn't just won the belt, I might actually buy into the idea that Fletcher could win. If he also wasn't the TNT champion, there's a variety of reasons why I don't think Fletcher is going to win. However, he could win it at any time, and I would be very happy with that. I wouldn't be upset at all if Kyle 100%. Won. They had Fletcher saying in the back, Don, I guarantee I'm going to win. And so I'm wondering if they're going to end up, because I don't want, there's Takeshita, who I know that is going to turn babyface, but I don't want them planting the seeds for a Kyle Fletcher babyface run. I love him as a heel, and I think I love him with Dawn, and I don't want that to end anytime soon. So, Books, the other thing about Hangman that I've been really noticing is his character change since he won the title. You know, he did this with Max and he did this with Fletcher as well, which is like, hey, I'm not an idiot. You're not just going to like get something for nothing, you know? So if you want to challenge me for a match, you get your ass in this ring. You do it to my face. Like, I don't care that you did it on Collision last week. You need to challenge me face to face, man to man. And so Fletcher gets in the ring and Hangman, you know, basically says like, you're not ready. But he carries himself so differently than he did the last time he was world champion. You know, last time he was world champion, he was just this charismatic, like, aw, shucks kind of babyface. And now that he's been through hell, you know, with Swerve and all that stuff and kind of betraying the person that he used to be, he's changed. And I just don't think anybody does character development like Hangman. Like, this guy's just unbelievable.
Yeah, you could definitely tell he's gotten some therapy.
Yeah, he's probably gone through some therapy in his life. He's also, you know, Joshi and I have talked about this before too, where it's like, he's not an idiot. Most baby faces are stupid as fuck. You know, like, they just, well, I'll fight you right here for the world title, like right now with no preparation. It's like, why would you do that? Nobody in their right mind would do that, you know?
I was gonna say, they feel like they're honoring the teacher in him. Like, we all know he was a teacher. Like, he's not stupid. Like, and I love that they're kind of like, he kind of feels like a teacher in this role. Like, the way he's talking to some of the heels, like,
yeah, he's not an idiot, and he's now he's not the young guy anymore. He's in his mid-30s, and he's been a world champion. He is the world champion. You know, so it's also putting, you know, Fletcher in a position where it's like, look, you know, Kenny did it for you. And now it's your turn to like carry these younger guys to a new level. Because kind of the traditional job of a world champion has always been to raise the game of their opponents, you know. And Fletcher's already so good. It's not like he needs to raise his in-ring game. But the psychology and making people really care about this match, that's what they're going to do. And, you know, Fletcher towered over Hangman. I've always thought of Hangman as being kind of a big dude, but, man, Fletcher's so much taller than him. So, it's going to be a really good match. I mean, we all know that, but, I'm really interested to see where it goes from here.
Me too. I'm looking up how tall Kyle Fletcher is.
I think he's 6'4". I think so.
6'3". Very close.
Okay. So, wow. So that makes Hangman what, 5'10", 5'11", something like that?
Hold on.
Yeah, I think they announced him as like 6 foot, but
he's 6 feet.
Okay. So he's probably shoot like 5'10", 5'11". Interesting. I just always think of him as being kind of tall, but he's actually not really.
If you want to look sexy as fuck, go to sickosclub.com/merch and get you some.
But something else they announced for Collision and then Dynamite is this unified title tournament. And that kind of came out of nowhere. And it's going to be Kazuchika Okada versus Michael Oku. You know, for people who don't know Michael Oku, he is a top guy for Rev Pro. Defeated Will Ospreay in Ospreay's last British match before he came to AEW. Then Konosuke Takeshita is going to take on Anthony Bowens on Collision. So Okada will be defending his title versus Michael Oku. And Takeshita will face Anthony Bowens. And then on Dynamite, the Beast Mordos is going to wrestle Mascara Dorada. And the finalists, which it looks like it'll be 3 finalists, will wrestle at All Out. And so my guess is there's no fucking way Michael Oku's going to beat Kazuchika Okada on an episode of Collision. There's no fucking way Anthony Bowens is beating Konosuke Takeshita. I don't think Mascara Dorada is going to beat the Beast Mordos. And so what it seems like is we're going to get Mordos versus Takeshita versus Okada at All Out. So they're not going to do they're not going to do a singles match right away with Takeshita and Okada, but they're building the tension between Okada and Takeshita, and they are going to be involved in the same match for the first time ever. That's very exciting to me. How do you feel about it?
I'm very excited. I also can see how this is going to start leading to Takeshita's face turn, because obviously Don Callis is going to play favorites. And I think he's going to end up making sure Okada... I don't think Okada's going to pin Takeshita. Okada will most likely pin the Beast Mordos to retain. I still think Kenny Omega's the second champion for the unified title, because the One Wing Angel is still on the belt. And
that's true.
If this belt is going to be world title level and be this legendary belt, Okada, then Omega as your first two champions are the best way to do that. But I potentially see this as one of Takesha's final straws with the Don Callis family.
Yeah, I think if they're building to, this is a way to give Okada a leg up over Takeshita without actually pinning him. And I think Takesha's about to have a rocket strapped to him. That's finally what people have wanted for Konosuke Takeshita, is to be this main event guy. And I think he might be the first person to really definitively beat Okada in AEW. You know, there were a few losses that he took in the C2 last year, but that's about it. You know, he really hasn't lost otherwise. And so I could see Takeshita possibly being the next champion. But I think I couldn't have said it any better. I think you're absolutely right. This is a triple threat to set up Beast Mordos is the fall guy. But who will Don favor? Who will Don help? Win. And I think it'll be Okada. There's no point in having the title change hands in a triple threat, especially for this title, which is supposed to be kind of a pure, almost like the pure title of AEW, So
I'm also wondering if this is going to lead to Takeshita leaving to go to Japan for a little bit.
Could be.
Because they are going to have to start setting up the stuff for Wrestle Kingdom and everything. Because, that's not that far away at this point.
No, well, and Takeshita's wrestling Zack Sabre in October for the title. So he's not wrestling at Wrestle Kingdom. So if...
Oh, I thought it was Wrestle Kingdom.
No.
Oh.
So Takeshita's wrestling...
Then
This is definitely setting up for Takeshita to be gone for a minute. So either Takeshita... There's a big swerve that happens at the end of this match, or it's going to happen before he goes to Japan again, where he gets written off by the Callis family for a minute.
Can you imagine if Kenny Omega actually appears and helps Takeshita? Could be. I know, I saw somebody post something, and I have no idea how verified it was, but somebody speculating that Takeshita would win the IWGP World Heavyweight title and then defend it against Okada at Wrestle Kingdom. That would be about as amazing a money-drawing main event as you could book for Wrestle Kingdom. No, I think I like that. I definitely think New Japan is putting the title on him.
I think so. I think New Japan and AEW have such a great relationship. And in the past, you would never even really consider that happening because the promoters just don't trust each other inherently. But Toni, I do know that Takeshita's deal expires with New Japan the day after Wrestle Kingdom. So I expect that it'll be renewed. But, bringing Okada back and having him wrestle in Japan for the IWGP title, the title he's held 1 million times, against the young upstart Takeshita. Come on. That almost writes itself,
Yeah.
So it's going to be wild. But seeing these two in the ring against each other, in a singles match is a dream match. It's a dream match for me.
It's up there with Takeshita and Omega. It's just going to be.
Absolutely. And I mean, I want to see so many more matches for Okada too. Like he's got so many other opponents I want to see. One that I thought of as we were talking here is Bandito. I want to see a Takeshita or an Okada Bandito match down the road at some point. That would be a lot of fun.
That would be.
Okada's gotten a very strong push since he's been in AEW. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing where they go next.
Same.
Speaking of where we go next, next up, the Young Bucks. You've heard of them.
My besties?
Yeah, your besties. You are of the Sickos Club. You're like our conduit to the Young Bucks because they respond to your messages.
All the time.
All the time. They respond to you quite often. You are clearly one of their favorite online fans. And, the Young Bucks have been on hard times since July, I believe it was 11th, when they lost to Swerve and Will Ospreay. They even had to put out a video on being the Elite this week saying we are not bums. That was the title. They are not
bums.
Somebody thought they were homeless and gave them $1 after walking past them, and they thought it was just change, right? But the Bucks have fallen on hard times. Nobody's respecting them. Nobody's respected them for a while. They were put into this match, which was Brodito with the Ops being Samoa Joe, Shibata, and Will Hobbs versus the Death Riders, Claudio Castagnoli, Wheeler Yuta, Jon Moxley, and the Young Bucks. And this is one of those $500,000 matches, another money match. Now, Joshi and I were just saying they've been doing a lot of these multi-man matches, and maybe they've overdone it a little bit. And these money matches, and maybe they've overdone those a little bit. But then they finally had one of these money matches actually have stakes that paid off.
I love the multi-man matches because I think it's a good way to have all your talent on TV.
It is, and it's clearly a way for them to maybe not have those singles matches on television, and you have to buy them on pay-per-view. Saves you some matches, especially when you're dealing with injuries too. So there's less matches you can make. So one of these money matches actually has finally paid off, and the stakes for the money match. Joshi and I were complaining before that a lot of times, somebody wins a big money match and you don't see them do anything with the money. They don't talk about the money. The only time it had really ever come back into play was when Mox got the money from the Bucks for Statlander. Remember that?
Yes.
But aside from that, it hadn't come into play that much. And so the Bucks come out for this match, and they come out to the original Dynamite music. And then it listed their full names, their full shoot names.
Their full passport names, their actual passport names.
And if you've read the Young Bucks book, you know that Matt Jackson's real middle name is Ron John.
Ron John.
And he was billed as Matt Ron John Massey. And Nick, I forget what Nick's just got a normal middle name. I don't remember what it is. Name. But they were billed as the Massies. Yeah. And so, yeah, exactly. They just went wild with their firstborn son. So they see their names up there and they're just like, whatever, we're just going to do the pose. We'll hit the pose. Mox had earlier in the night approached them and said, you guys got to get back to being the best tag team in the world. So here's this. How about you two just split the purse? Like we won't even take the money if we win. We've just got to win. And the Bucks are very intrigued by this because they're greedy little fuckers now, and they're used to being very rich. So they have their customary incredible match. You know, you've got all the players there to have an incredible match. Does anybody have as much swagger as Samoa Joe? Is there anybody on planet Earth as cool as Samoa Joe?
No. I do think it's funny, though, because I've just been watching Twisted Metal, and I'm like, Samoa Joe is a face on TV, on Dynamite, on AEW, but he's also Sweet Tooth, and he's a bad guy, and I'm like, God, he's incredible.
He really is. He really is. And it is so weird that WWE made them put up a trailer for the show on their programming that didn't have Samoa Joe in it. Like,
did they really?
Yeah, they really did do that. Like, when they ran trailers for the second season of the show, they made it so that Sweet Tooth couldn't be in the trailers because that's Samoa Joe, even though he's wearing a fucking mask.
That is, grow up. You are a 70-year-old company. Act like it.
It's just insane how insecure these guys are. It's
over a t-shirt company.
Yeah, exactly. So they have their customary really good match. You know, you get a nope spot from Joe, which we all want the nope spot. Joe is just cool as fuck. Yeah, I mean, I'm going on about Joe here. Hobbs looked great. Great to see Hobbs in a match for the first time in a little while. Shibata is always a pleasure to watch. But the Bucks managed to steal a win. Not a big fan of the Ring of Honor World Champion taking another pin. He's been pinned a few times recently, and I'm like, come on, man. Yeah, come on. But it made sense. It was a very cheap pin. Matt stole the pin by putting his feet on the ropes and basically only didn't get pinned by Bandito because Nick on the outside held on to Matt's belt so he couldn't bounce off the ropes, and then stole the pin from Bandito. So the Young Bucks are absolutely, it was hilarious watching how happy they were to have money again and just running around with the money. Then Brody punching them in the face, and Brodito brawled to the back with the Bucks. Almost kind of made me like, do we get Brodito versus the Bucks at All Out?
100%. Side note, how nice was it seeing the Young Bucks up against a lucha talent again?
Hell yeah.
Because, like, the Bucks and lucha wrestlers have such amazing chemistry because the Bucks have very a lucha style, right? And I almost cried. I was like,
oh yeah.
I was like, I forgot how much I miss the Bucks with a lucha talent. And I was just, I was personally on cloud nine.
Yeah, well, it kind of brings back those Lucha Bros matches and those vibes, you know. But yeah, the Bucks doing lucha with luchadors it's there's nothing like it. Bandito and Takeshita are the best wrestlers in the world right now, is my firm belief. So you know, anything Bandito does is going to be great. He's still trying to get Brody to do the Macarena, and at some point, Brody's going to do the Macarena. You know he's going to do it.
I think it'll be at All Out.
It'll probably be at All Out. But I think as well, you don't want to run this Bucks, you know, having no money thing into the ground. So them winning money here, you know, I think they've squeezed as much as they can out of them just being fucking losers. So they're going to have a great fucking match at All Out if that's what they end up doing. But I think they were maybe teasing Brodito versus the Bucks at All Out with the way this ended. And then the Death Riders just attacked and overwhelmed the Ops after the match, and quite a beatdown being laid upon them until Darby Allin's music hits and he runs out, gets Mox from behind, and I think he potatoed him a few times because Mox started putting his hand up over his face, like, dude, hey, like, you're hitting me for real. Like, stop. Too many times in the face that you're going to give me a concussion. Don't do that. And Darby's just going nuts on Mox, and he's like, I'm gonna end you, bitch. I'm gonna take everything from you. Blah, 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 blah. And a hooded figure shows up and throws Darby down. hits Darby, knocks him, incapacitates him, removes the hood, and is Daniel Garcia. What are your thoughts when this happens?
Well, one, I wanted him to turn heel when he was helping Nigel.
Yes.
But
yeah,
at least it happened.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not really sure where they're going with this, if they're doing a weird pillar angle again with Darby and Danny. I'm a little over that.
Right.
But I think Daniel Garcia needs the Death Riders. I think, a Moxley and a Claudio can really help a Danny Garcia. I like Danny Garcia, but he has the gimmick of a potato. I don't think dancing is a gimmick. I
thought he was really
he's
entertaining.
A Ricky Starks to me.
I'm a big fan. I like him a lot. I think that.
I like him more than Ricky Starks, but I think he needs a new gimmick, and I think this is a smart move to put Danny with the Death Riders and help him blossom.
Yeah, he's been out of steam as a character for a long time. And I think having him just be that good, just straight up good guy babyface that wasn't the play. And really, and they put no energy into his title reign, either. And so I thought that really hurt him. And there's very little you can do if the company isn't behind you in the right way. And so they just didn't get behind him as the champ the way I really felt they needed to. And so they needed to reinvent. They've been teasing a heel turn for like 3 months since he was first in that tag match with Nigel versus FTR. And it's time. I think this is a really strong development for Danny. He's been cutting really good promos the last few weeks leading up to this. So he does a curb stomp to Darby where he puts his arms behind his back. Mox is like, no, you need to end this guy. So he pulls his arm behind his back and he stomps on his head, but Darby kind of turns and misses the chair. And
I thought that was a mistake.
It was a mistake.
Okay.
And I think Mox and Danny were just really smart and kind of made it look like Danny didn't have the heart to do it. And then Mox is like, no, you got to do it on the chair. And then they did it again. And it was a pretty brutal spot. But by Darby standards, not that brutal, really. But, Danny's got to change. I think they've got a built-in Yuta thing. They've kind of shown that Yuta will one day play an important role in the downfall of Jon Moxley, and Yuta getting jealous of Danny Garcia having, being Mox's new favorite seems like an obvious play to me.
Have you seen the theory?
No.
So, I didn't think it was this week. I think it was last week when Chris Statlander and Yuta were talking with Marina and Hartley.
Yeah.
And he said, our friend.
Yes.
Why didn't he say Moxley? We all know who they're. So I think it's Orange Cassidy.
So we said that last week. I put that forward last week on.
I think.
Sit down, shut up. I think that he could be like leading to the Orange Cassidy reveal, and that Stat and Yuta might reunite with Orange Cassidy, and that would be really cool. Honestly, that would be really, really cool.
And I think then having Danny kind of take Yuta's spot is a good way to kind of refresh the Death Riders. Yeah. And kind of change it up a bit.
Yeah, so Joshi G was pretty adamant on the last episode that she wants the Death Riders to be over. She's just kind of done with it. I think a lot of people are feeling that way because it's unclear how they could move forward. And you you can count me in on that too. I don't know how they advance. I want Daniel Garcia to advance. So I'm not like, fuck this. I'm not like, fuck the Death Riders. But it needs to have some momentum to it. And I think this is a good way to give it some.
Yeah.
And we'll see where it goes from here. What I really want to see is this elevate Darby. And I want to see this elevate Danny. And so we'll see where it goes. It doesn't seem like it's going to be over at All Out. I don't think it's going to be over at All Out. I had said that I thought that, they might need 2 matches, Mox versus Darby. So we'll see. We'll see. But maybe Orange Cassidy plays a role in helping end the Death Riders, because that was kind of what was teased at the end of Wrestle Dream a year ago, because the last 2 guys in the shot were Darby and Orange Cassidy. So we'll see where it goes. But I think this was a very interesting development and pretty shocking way to end Dynamite. It didn't seem like it was going to happen that fast with Danny. So, and also, what does this mean for Daddy Magic?
I know, poor Daddy Magic. Maybe that means, oh my God, why am I blanking on his name?
I'm blanking. Cool Hand Ange.
Ange is going to get a little bit of a push. Maybe
they come back and Daddy Magic and Ange team back up. Who knows? But I think, it leads to a lot of interesting, wide open possibilities. I got to give it to Tony Khan. This, I said this year that after All Out or All In, that I would give some space for Tony to tell the story because he came through so big. And I'm going to do it because I think, there's a very real possibility he did create some genuine interest that Toni Storm might lose the world title, the women's world title at All Out. One of my biggest complaints with Joshi was like, hey, like who can she actually have a realistic chance of losing to at this point? And putting her in that 4-way match, I think that's a good way to do that. But, that'll work for this pay-per-view. But if she wins again, how are they going to?
I don't know what else.
There's nowhere else for them to go with her.
Yeah, I get not wanting her to take a pin, so I think this is a great way. But Toni Storm doesn't need the women's world, and we all know Tony has this weird issue with booking women, where he just likes to have his 2 title holders on TV. Tony losing and putting that title on someone forces him to have Toni Storm on Mercedes in the women's world. Because no one's going to not want Toni Storm on.
Yes. And, one thing that I would critique myself on when I've talked about Toni Storm in the past and some of the frustration with her continuing to be the champion is, I talked about how I thought it was good for the division, but what I don't think I made a very clear distinction about is it's not like if Toni loses the belt, she won't be on TV. She's one of their most popular characters. It would force them to put more women on TV. That's the point. That that was a major part of the point that I was trying to make is if Toni loses this title, that means we're guaranteed to get 1 or 2 or 3 more women per show on the show because whoever's the champion has to be on the show and whoever their opponent is has to be on the show too. So you then add, something more compelling for the women's division and start making more stars. And, we'll see how that plays out. But I think the time feels right. It also seems like Tony's really serious about Tekla too. So I see her as a possible champion. Statlander could possibly be a champion.
My feeling is it's going to be Jamie because they've already hinted at who beat Jamie. It was Toni Storm.
Yep. And Jamie's got a vendetta.
And that also leads to Tekla versus Jamie.
Yes. There you go. So maybe, Hayter costs Toni this match somehow, wins, which leads to maybe Tekla winning the title. And then Hayter uses that as an opportunity to try and step over Toni to challenge Tekla, who she also hates. And you create a ton of story options if you do that. And so I'm just very excited to freshen up the women's division. They need it, but
they need it.
I do trust that there is a plan.
I trust Toni.
I do too. But, like at the same time, we've given this time. I think Toni Storm, there's just nowhere else for her to go as champion. I keep saying it, but
she's hit this level. She's beaten the forever champion. She's beaten Mercedes Moné, the belt collector. She doesn't need it anymore. She's elevated. She's doing what she needs to do. Have her be this, like, I don't know the right word for it, but have her be this character that is above a championship because she's a star. Like, she doesn't need the accolades anymore. Like, she's just so good.
Yes.
Because Toni has a very bad habit of keeping belts on people for either too short or too long because he doesn't want to switch things up. And I think particularly in the women's division right now, he needs to switch. He needs to like have Tekla have a nice little run, then put it on Jamie, and then put it on someone else, or have Statlander beat her. Like, let's put these people that you've been teasing as women's world champions, who have been with AEW from the start. It's time to push them. Yeah.
No, I think that's kind of the thing. When you just look at Athena, Mercedes, and Toni, the women's world title in AEW has revolved around Toni Storm constantly for 2.5 years.
Yep.
The Mariah May title reign was a setup for Toni to win it back. And we all knew it. It was like they told an amazing story. And I haven't forgotten. I love Toni, and she's been an incredible champion. But so there's staleness there in that respect. And then Mercedes now has held the TBS title for 1.5 years almost. And Athena has been the ROH champion for almost 3 years, So it's like, time. That's insane. You've got to mix this up. So she hit her 1,000 days, it's time to mix things up a little bit.
And Mercedes is close to beating Jade's record.
Right.
And her losing the TBS title isn't going to stop what she's doing with the indies. And I love the belt gimmick. I love her promoting these indie belts. And I think it's very important for wrestling for her to continue to, and it frees her up time to go do more of these indie runs. But I think she's very close to Jade's run.
Yeah, in days for sure. And she's never going to match her in defenses because Jade has like some ridiculous number because she beat a ton of jobbers while she was champion.
But she's gonna beat the days and
and then I mean, for God's sake, Toni, just you can't, the TBS title's supposed to be a secondary title. You can't tie it up for this long on somebody who never loses. This is the second title reign now that's been over 1 year long for a title that's only had like 5 or 6 title reigns, so it's like, come on, man.
I will say, whoever beats Toni and whoever beats Mercedes are going to be stars. Like,
yes. And it's time to spend some of that capital. Yeah.
At least we know Athena's is almost over because she announced she's taking time off.
Yeah.
So we know her losing date is in the near future. So
in the near future. And she really, there's nothing left for her to do in Ring of Honor anymore. I mean, she just needs to be AEW full-time. And
I think she's going to be the one to beat Mercedes.
Yeah, she very well could be. Well, Books, it's been incredible having you on again.
It's always incredible being on.
People, go follow Books on all the places, on TikTok,
all the places,
on YouTube, on Instagram. I'm missing one on Blue Skye.
Yes.
Make sure you follow. It's just Books and Bodyslams, all one word. And then Books, you have something coming up.
our friend Bex, who does Don't Call Me Diva, and I have a secret project we're working on. And we're going to be announcing that soon. And it also may be involving just going through all the history of all the belts Mercedes owns.
Oh, damn. Damn, that sounds cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So follow me so you can watch madness unfold between Bex and I, because we're chaotic good together.
Yes. It's chaotic, but it's a good chaotic. Yes.
Good chaotic.
Yes. I talked to Bex recently and was like, we should just do something crazy and insane together. And she was like, all for it. So
she's amazing. Yeah. Go follow her too.
Go follow Bex the Destroyer on socials, and check out her podcast, Don't Call Me Diva. She's been doing it for quite a while now. She is a mad woman who is very inspired and very, very knowledgeable and very passionate. And she's an incredibly entertaining person. So
yes,
make sure you give Don't Call Me Diva a chance. Also, last thing for me, go to sickosclub.com. Check out what we offered there. Check out our merch page. Also, listen to The Hard Way with Brett Michelle. I am a co-host of that show with Brett Michelle and Professor Degree. This last week, we talked about Bad Blood 97, which was a terrible show with one incredible match on it. That's one of the greatest WWF matches of all time with Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker, and the first Hell in the Cell match. So I would highly recommend you check that out.
So obviously I'm a new wrestling fan. So my favorite part about The Hard Way is I get to learn things. So that's why you should listen to it, because you get to learn things, especially if you only started watching wrestling.
Exactly. And we can tell you if something's terrible, so you don't have to watch it. It's very amusing. Professor Degree has been a wonderful addition to the family, and Brett is just batshit in much the same ways that I am. So, it's a good time. It's a good time. So, thank you one and all. We appreciate you all so much. Please leave us a review on whatever app you listen to us on. Give us a 5-star review. That really does help. It boosts us in the algorithm and helps people find us. Until next time, I'm Blade Daly.
And I'm Books and Bodyslams.
Pro wrestling forever.
Sickos Club.